Okay, this part 2 lecture is in relation to the Aerospace Marketing Management. Okay, last week we have already gone through the topic on business intelligence marketing, and for today we are going to look at the market segment and position, right? And at the same time, if time permits, we will go to the last part of the topic, which is marketing and sales action plan. That would wrap up our topic on aerospace marketing management. The two fundamental marketing tools normally being used in the market evaluation in general are segmentation and positioning, right? So we are going to look at the first part on segmentation, and later in this particular session we are going to look at how market positioning being done, especially for the aerospace sector. Basically, segmentation is a process of splitting up the market into homogeneous sub-assemblies in order to be able to choose an appropriate strategy for each one, meaning that you're going to have different approach for different target customer, right? So then it is a question of making the clearest distinction possible between oneself and competitors in the mind of the customer, and this is the object of positioning, right? So it is a tool to do market segmentation or market positioning in order for you to reach the intended customer. Let us look at the what do we mean by segmenting a market and how is it being done. Basically, segmenting a market consists of splitting it up into homogeneous sub-assemblies, as being highlighted. Later on, we are going to look into examples of how market segmentation being done in aerospace. Homogeneity can also be defined mathematically by saying that any two elements from the same segment must be as alike as possible, whereas those from two different segments must be as different as possible. So measuring homogeneity, okay, the differences of or similarities, which consists of looking at the behavior of customers relative to the company's product or services. So this is just in general overview. There are several segmentation methods. Normally in the market we use by type of customer or by type of product or any other elements of criteria, according to whether the company deals with the general public at large or professional groups of people. And what is important is to know the objective sought, such as improving the relevance of the offer, its communication, the approach, etc. All right. So the objectives of segmentation. What are the objective of the segmentation? All right. Basically, objective of segmentation is we can use successful segmentation means that the company can offer something which will perform well for the customer segment chosen. Conversely, an analysis without segmentation will only give two general product or service proposal that are ineffective. So you cannot just go into the market and try to sell your product without doing market segmentation. So you are going to be lost basically. There are several objective to segmentation, such as being highlighted by Malava and Benaroya in 2013. Right? So the five objective of segmentation. We are going to look at one after another. The first one is improving customer knowledge. We want to improve customer knowledge. That is the first objective of conducting segmentation of a market. Okay, number two is making the product offer more relevant. The third objective is to allow better targeted communication, right, between the product owner to the customer, and then to allow a more effective sales approach, and finally to contribute to the pricing policy. So these are the five objectives of doing segmenting a market, right? So the first one, about improving customer knowledge. Firstly, it is easier to carry out effective study after segmentation. Once you have grouped the target market in terms of all the product by having a different criteria, different segmentation, you can then improve customer knowledge. The relation between studies and segmentation is interactive, which studies allow the segmentation to be sharpened or even to adopt new criteria for initial split up. Secondly, relevant segmentation allows studies to be developed, which correspond better to customer expectation. In addition, by grouping together in a relevant way actual and potential customer with common characteristics, segmentation can then allow for better understanding and better prediction of customer reaction to different marketing campaigns. So this will actually allows you to be seen compared to the other competitors. So the second objective is basically making the product offer more relevant. More relevant to whom? More relevant to the customer. By breaking up the market into homogeneous segments, right, it is possible to set up a range of products which better correspond to the expectation to the customer from each segment. So each segment has its own expectation, and each segment of customers or segment of product can then provide the customer better knowledge. Basically, it tailor-made to the group of customer. So their motives for satisfaction or dissatisfaction concerning previous products, competitors, or otherwise are easier to distinguish. So right from the design of the product, segmentation will allow faster development of the different varieties. So each manager can work from customer-based viewpoint to fine-tune the finished product. And the third objective, basically to allow better targeted communication. You do not want to waste hundreds of ringgit, thousands of ringgit just to provide, for example, like TV ads, right? TV ads where or radio ads where sometimes the information does not reach the targeted group, right? So by having segmentation, it also leads to an improvement in the effectiveness of advertising strategy. So the fact of having defined the different customer segment means that the company knows the main motivations of its customer better, right? Consequently, it is easier to choose which argument to put forward for which segment. So in addition, it has better knowledge of the sources of information used by its customer, whether general public. You can use daily newspaper or magazine, radio, TV, and now now we have a more general platform like social media, using TikTok, using Instagram, using all sort of other mode of advertisement. Or sometimes you can also use professional means like professional press, magazines, through exhibitions, technical document, and others. So in this way, segmentation allow choice of the most effective support for the communications objective. The number 4 objective of segmentation is to allow more effective sales approach. So by defining homogeneous customer segment can lead to better selection of distribution circuits and thus specialization of a part of the sales force, Whether it is a question of selling tickets to the general public or equipment to airline companies, segmentation will give more effective sales approach. And finally, the fifth objective for segmentation is to contribute to the pricing policy. So basically in markets where price emerges as the determining factor, meaning that your in terms of the technicality is the same, right? In terms of the quality is the same, but eventually the pricing will determine the which one the customer want to choose, right? So that's why it can be used as a criteria for segmentation. So this could lead the company to propose different offers as a function of the price, right? You can have a premium package, or you can have a general entry level product. Overall, therefore, segmentation turns out to be a highly important tool within the marketing plan, with repercussions on all the variables that I already cited earlier. So for the sales action plan, it is highlighted which priorities to adopt for each segment. So let us look into some relevancy to aerospace, where market and segmentation and positioning will be used. This is a table of a comparison of method of segmentation by products as well as by customer. So this is the first column here by product, and the column next to it is by customer, right? So the advantages of having by product, basically you can easier to set up, often starting from existing base. For advantages of having customer by customer, basically customer needs must be analyzed. You have to leads to the setup of segment by advantage sort. Whereas the disadvantages of by-product segmentation is basically risk being too oriented towards the company know-how rather than the customer needs. Risk of conservatism, right? Risk proposing an offer out of touch with customer needs and late in terms of competitor, because you are focusing on the company needs rather than the customer needs if you use by product type of segmentation. Whereas for customer, disadvantages such as risk of dispersing design and production effort, risk getting in the way of productivity approach, and frustration when the company's offer does not correspond to the segments thus defined. All right. Examples of segmentation criteria in the aeronautics market. If we look here, this table shows, for example, like company having network and the market constraints from regulation in terms of environment, changes linked with transport, high-speed train, etc. Like we can also have fleet, the size of composition, average age of planes order. So market will show the size. And then in terms of environment, we can see new players coming in. So you can see that in terms of the aeronautics market, they can have a cluster of company by locality, by type, by domain of activity, financial result, role, alliances. There are many alliances within the airlines all over the world. Okay, the culture, history, and operational constraint. Whereas for market, you can look into constraint from regulation, size, growth, perspective, sectors conceivable of evolution and competition. Whereas for environment, you can have airport saturation, regulations, political changes, new customer market, and so on. So these are just example of segmentation criteria that being used in the aeronautics market, right? So if we look at the general overview of market segmentation using the top-down method, where you can have level of criteria, right? For example, like this is the biggest, the larger market, the total market, where criteria number one, you may have, for example, like you have type of long haul aircraft, aircraft that fly between continents, right? Criteria number two, maybe you can put up number of seats available. Criteria number three, maybe you have choices of food served in the aircraft. So these are example or like a template being used to create market segmentation. So example of a top-down segmentation, right, being used over here, where we put up passengers, different type of passengers. Passenger can go for long haul or short haul. We can also provide religion, whether they are Hindu, Muslim, or kosher, because it depends associated with the type of food they consume. Type of food for Hindu, type of food for Muslim, halal. For kosher, they want only kosher meals in the aircraft. So by having this, you can provide specific segmentation for marketing purposes. So the main segmentation criteria for passengers, example again, you can provide like aim of the journey, whether it is a business trip, company, independent, going for conference, stimulation of motivation. Some people travel to have leisure, holidays. They can also visiting friends, parents. They can also have personal trips, and length of journey, whether it is a direct flight or it is a transit, uh, level of use, cultural and national origin or lifestyle. So you can provide as many segmentation just for the passenger alone. So you can, this is just an example. So if we look in other example, the offer to be made in order to give a better service for different business and leisure passengers. So you can look here whether for business passenger you can have a profile, for example, like low relative sensitivity to price. For leisure passenger, they are very highly sensitive to price, and they want to have low cost because they are paying on their own compared to their business passenger. So you can compare those for business passenger as well as for the leisure passenger type of customers. So in general, market segmentation by the bottom up, just now is from the top down, right? And now we want to look at the bottom up, where we can plot criteria number one, amount of purchase annually. For example, like passengers that buying flight ticket or buying products annually compared to average amount per order, and that is can be segmented into S1, S2, and S3 in general. Okay. So if we look at example, a real example, segmentation example for the bottom up. So basically, this is an example of civil airplane market as a function of passenger capacity and operating range. So we have a plot of passengers, number of passengers in terms of the number of people, compared to the range, nautical miles, maximum nautical miles that is allowable for the type of aircraft. So if we talk about small aircraft having 100 passengers up to the maximum 650 passengers for Airbus A380-800. Okay, so you can see that the type of aircraft used, A380 is the maximum passengers available, that followed by 747 8 series, and then 747-400, 777 300, and so on. You can see that the black the red color boxes represented by Boeing, the diamond type of shape here, blue color represented by the Airbus type. So you can see that more ranges for Boeing compared to Airbus, but they have a different strategies. Different airline, they have different type of aircraft manufacturer having different set of customers. Okay. If we look at segmentation of the business jet market, right? So there are 5 segments there, segment 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, where business jet market A340 is a direct competitor for Boeing 747, right? So you can see here the corporate jetliner, the RJ special edition Falcon 900 Gulfstream in the section 2 and so on. So you can see that this is a comparison between the cost of the aircraft, and the y-axis is the cost of the aircraft from 1.5 million US dollar to 200 million US dollar, and this is the distance that the aircraft can fly. So different group of market segment. So over here we can divide the business jet market into 5 different market segment. Okay. In terms of market segment and positioning, for segment 1, airplane which is worth more than 150 million to 200 million, normally being compared to which carries more passengers, more distances, having 4 number of engine with a speed of around 900 kilometer per hour. So for airplane worth between 23 to 60 million, we have these are the type of manufacturer: Airbus, Boeing, Bombardier, Dassault, and the rest. Okay, just for example, to show to you that this is how aerospace market being segmented. For segment 3, airplane costing between 11 to 23 million, where we have a smaller type of aircraft like Hawker Beechcraft, Bombardier, Embraer Legacy 500, like Cessna Citation X, Dassault Falcon 50, and so on. So these are comparison between the price of the aircraft, how many passengers that they carry, the distance that they can fly, how many engines that are installed for the aircraft, and the speed that they use. All right. And and then we have segment 4, airplanes that are cost around 4 to 11 million. Okay, so you can see more smaller aircraft, right? And finally, airplanes that is cost 1.5 million to 4 million, like Cyrus, Diamond, normally being used for experimental aircraft or trainer aircraft. So short haul aircraft. So different segment of the aircraft or airplane is required because of the customer needs, right? So in terms of segmenting a market, this is another approach, the Shapiro and Bonoma model, and the nested approach, where we have a company demographic. We can also group it in operating variable, purchasing approach, situational factors, and personal characteristics. So basically, if we go up to the y-axis, it is more relevant information, right? Where from company demographic to personal characteristic, but if you go to the x-axis, more difficult to access, where customization or personal characteristic, once you get this, you may get the customer, basically not just a general overview over here. So once you have a customization, you know what's really the customer needs, and you can basically sell the product to the customer. So the succession of segmenting a market, being divided into 5 categories, right? As being shown in the previous chart just now. Company demographic such as economic sector, size, location of the company, operating variables like technology use, user and non-user of product or brand, purchase associated product, customer know-how, purchasing approach, organization and relationship, with the buying center hierarchical structure, centralized and decentralized purchasing, right? Situational factors like order type. Sometimes they order in bulk, and they have order, for example, like Air India ordered 787 type. Sorry, 737-800 type of aircraft. Recently, they ordered 100 numbers in terms of the same type of aircraft. So, and the amount of degree of urgency of the order, right? And finally, personal characteristic, which is the hardest that to get. Basically, affinities between sales representative and the buyer motivations, so individual perception and degree of loyalty, right? So that is the first part of the market segmentation. So basically, we have already looked what is market segmentation. We have looked at the objective. We have looked at different strategies or ways of doing segmentation, whether it is a top down or bottom up or having a different approach. So that is the first part for market segmentation. Let us move into the market positioning. What do we mean by market positioning? So we know that segmentation is an essential phase in the marketing approach. Targeting consists in choosing which specific segment the company is going to focus on. Then what happens is that relevant positioning can be established for each segment selected. So for each segment selected, you can then position your product, right? Which enables the company to make the necessary decision for each variable in the mix. So we have already looked at the segmentation, selecting the segmentation criteria, analyzing the different market segment, and then doing the targeting, assessing the potential of the segment chosen by the company, selecting the targets, and then positioning where you choose the positioning, how you position your product in the market, and developing an accurate marketing mix, right? So there are only two objectives of positioning. The first one is identifying the product category, and then objective of positioning basically to differentiate by brand, differentiation by the brand, right? What is identifying the product category? So it is the first aspect of positioning, right? What happened is that it is necessary when the product is not clearly defined. So the goal being to inform customers who are not necessarily aware of the advantages to be gained from using the product. So this is especially true for emerging market segment, such as express freighters. So the latter is new category of service which must be positioned relative to postal or cargo services of traditional companies. Identification of product category is also necessary when the product or service falls in between two categories. For example, like Earth observation satellite. So first used for military application, and the satellite can be used for military application. So these satellites have increasingly been used for civil market and followed up of natural phenomena like to monitor floods, desertification, ecological problem, deforestation, and pollution. So thus, it was important to explain the interests of different possible services to prospective customer organization. So you have the same product, but you can then position it to suit the customer needs. All right. And then the second objective is differentiation by brand. It is the second aspect of positioning related to the products or service offered by the company. So when the segment is in the mature phase, customers are generally sufficiently informed. So they know the products or services advantages. So in this case, differentiation by brand, the latter must be positioned relative to direct customers. So this is true for airline, which have very different position to make clear their distinctive services in the mind of customers. So when you talk about AirAsia, for example, what comes in your mind? And previously, AirAsia has a tagline. What is it called? Everyone can fly, or everybody can fly. But that is their tagline. However, for Malaysia Airline, they have what? Malaysian hospitality, right? For different airline, they have a different tagline. So you may want to look at what is the tagline for my airline, for example, or what is the tagline for Emirates, or Qatar Airline, Qatar Airways, the best airline in the world. So different airline, they want to make sure that they are very different. They can position themselves so that they can be identified, or put their product in the mind of the customers. All right. There are 4 essential criteria for evaluating position. The first one is simplicity, then relevance, originality, and credibility. What is simplicity? Basically, one of the basic advertising principles is the unique selling proposition. What you want to sell to the customer, according to which an advertisement should only present one promise at a time. So you don't over-promise. Okay, a position should be simple so that to be easily understood and memorized. For example, in preparation for launching of the A400M military transport aircraft, Airbus Military Company positioned its offers as the European solution to European needs. So that is what they use as a tagline. Okay, so you can look at other tagline for other airlines. In terms of relevance, what is it in terms of relevant? Okay, the idea is to choose one or several criteria which correspond to the main expectations of the determined target. So in air transport, this could be flight punctuality. So you do not want flight delays. Flight delays, like for example, like happen to many airline in Malaysia, like AirAsia. We already get used that AirAsia is always late, for example. So always delay, always change flight. So it happened to me so many times. So we already get used to it. So which is not good. So this is need to be improved. For example, like for quality of service or density of the network in a particular geographic area. How about originality? So if the positioning criteria chosen by the company are the same as those of competitors, the differentiation is not functioning. So the uniqueness of the positioning is an important factor. So you have to find the originality in terms of doing the advertising. So this is why the criteria retained to express the differentiation are often irrational. The rational or logical criteria being used by competitors. Detailed analysis of the product relative to the competing products reveal that in general they may have many points in common. Positioning on the other hand is based on differences. So you have to find your uniqueness. The airline themselves have to find uniqueness. And then finally, credibility. Whether they are rational or not, correspond to characteristic of the product or company, its nationality or directors. The criteria selected must be credible. And overly theoretical or exaggerated positioning will only disappoint customers. So basically, you want to make sure when you evaluating positioning, these are the 4 essential criteria, which is simplicity, relevance, originality, and credibility. So these are examples For Singapore Airline, Air France, Swiss Air, American Airline, maybe you can look at it, positioning, simplicity, relevant, originality, credibility for each type of the airlines. So they have their uniqueness, right? And then if we look here, positioning, example of Virgin Atlantic versus EasyJet. Okay, Virgin Atlantic normally they position themselves as a cheeky youth. They used to use that as their positioning, whereas EasyJet use low cost and friendly. So you can see credibility for Virgin Atlantic, extremely high impact original advertising. EasyJet, no free meals or newspapers, but regular cheap flights, advertising directly displayed on aircraft. So these are different strategies of marketing used by real airlines. Positioning, keystone of the mix, taken from Landrivier, and Linden in 1997. So positioning can be characterized into product policy, can also benefiting the pricing policy, distribution policy, as well as the communication policy. All right. So that is the second part of the aerospace marketing